C4, the symmetrical English by Magnus. Knight comes out to F3, G6 and played. He wants to put his bishop down the long diagonal. Vincent plays D4, knight takes, and now the bishop comes attacking the knight on D4. We've transposed into the accelerated dragon territory, but plays this slightly tricky move, queen B6 attacking here, and in the center the knight attacking the queen, check to the king. The knight comes back to C3. Now you cannot really take here. The knight is defending. So knight C3 has made Magnus stop in his tracks. His knight out to F6, attacking the pawn on E4. He's defended the central pawns. If you see the time used, both players have played relatively quickly, that they know the opening. D6, bishop is one idea. You can quickly castle. Can you take advantage of the spin here? It doesn't seem likely that it's possible. And so Magnus plays 6, opening up the bishop E2 play. Castles as black. Also castles. And now the bishop comes here, putting pressure on C4. You may also want to bring your other rook pressure onto the C4 pawn. And here I think A3 with the idea of D4 later could be very interesting. Queen D2. Maybe you want to. He plays queen D2, but maybe it's not the most accurate move. And the reason is now you can't jump with your knight without avoiding the trade of queens. Magnus plays this very nice move, knight D7. He opens up the knight is coming to C5, and you can strike in the center with F5 move. Although slightly weakening, you have to play it with lot of care. Now, if you play knight A3 in this position, then you have to be afraid of bishop C3, queen C3, and the structure is completely ruined here. So that's the reason why. Although Vincent wants to get out his knight, he's unable to do so right now, and that's why he's using his time. He needs to be careful. This move, queen D2, perhaps a small inaccuracy by Vincent. Already facing some troubles in the position. He brings his rook to C1 so that he protects the knight, ready to get knight to A3. Magnus has this very interesting move, which is knight B6, putting pressure here. Look at this. If you go knight B6, and if B3 is played, already this becomes very soft. But I guess to knight B6, Vincent wants to go knight A3, and again Magnus is the one who's taking some time and plays his rook to C8, a very natural move, putting pressure down the C file. Time for Vincent to develop his final piece. Knight to A3 makes a lot of sense. There are also possibilities of tucking the king to H1. He goes knight A3, a good move. F5 on the board. Play by Magnus. He's sensing a certain bit of disharmony in his opponent's camp. Pawn takes pawn. He takes back with the pawn. Now such moves, F5 is slightly dangerous because the E7, these squares get weakened quite a bit. But here, are they going to haunt white? Are they going to haunt black? We don't know. Knight D5. He comes in. Vincent knows what harmony is all about. Feels it that his knight belongs on the square. So knight B5. An excellent move by him. And what is Magnus' response going to be here? Look, let's have a look at the clock timing. 1 minute, 1 minute seconds for Magnus, 1 minute seconds for Vincent. You can see Magnus playing with those two pawns, thinking about what his next plan ought to be. F4 might be an interesting move. Takes. Is there some sacrifice there? He goes knight E5 for the time being. Attacks the pawn on C4. Look at this. Two attackers here, only one defender. You have to defend it. How? You want to go B3? Yes, he does. Slightly weakening the C3 knight, but there's no way to take advantage of it. What a move. Now if you take here, then clearly rook F4, queen F4, and A6 will net the C3 knight. So that's the reason why he comes back to a safe move there by Vincent. And I think it's time to kick this knight away as as well. The knight jumps back, attacking e6 bishop. He takes bishop takes d4, and now Magnus pushes his pawn to b5. Magnus just feeling that his position is very solid because of the dark square control, and he's already ready to open up the queen side. Pawn takes pawn. You cannot really win this because the queen is hanging, and you cannot even b5 because of rook followed by queen b5. So somehow this b5 is a very irritating one for Vincent, and he can't do much about it. He cannot allow it. So he takes. Rightly so. Magnus takes back, and now your queen is little bit uncomfortable. You want to defend rook d1, but then knight is a bit soft. There could be ideas like knight f3, bishop f3, queen takes, and then the c3 knight hangs. If the rook moves away from the defense of the knight. So much to calculate. Vincent down to 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. Oh my goodness, he's not making a move. Vincent Kiember needs to play. He goes rook d1. A good move there. But now is knight f3 bishop f3, bishop f4, queen d4. Magnus is calculating. He doesn't like that later a4, a6 bishop looking at the queening square. That might get very dangerous. So he's calculating whether this works. And this is the toughest part in a blitz game. You see a combination working. Give it up. And then you play something else. Bishop f5. That's a mistake. F4 hanging, suddenly there are no attacks. Vincent with 4 seconds takes it. You can sense that Vincent is fearless. Magnus comes in with his rook, attacks the bishop. Again defending the bishop here. Rook takes a2. Yes, you can capture that pawn. That seems like the best move there. And at least getting back your pawn. Magnus has 36 seconds. Vincent down to 5 seconds on the clock. He takes the pawn on a2. Rook takes, queen takes, and now very important to play something like king h1. But he goes makes an error, allows bishop hitting the rook and the pawn, plays it, and now rook c1, very important so that queen d2, but no time. Rook d2 is a mistake because Magnus wins another pawn, and this time a very important because this one he's now complete pawn up here. He wants to take here and take on e5. Magnus saves his bishop. F4 played, and you can see Magnus wanted to move the knight, but then stopped in. What is it? That knight thinking knight 6. A few possible moves here. He goes knight to c6, attacking the bishop. Bishop takes h8, king takes, and plays his bishop to b5. Again attacking the knight, and he attacks White's knight. Great vision of the board. Bishop attacking f4, g3 defends it, comes back to protect this pawn. Rook b2, p3 played, and Magnus is completely winning now. The way in which the tide was very impressive, and you can see how Magnus calms himself down when he's winning the game. He doesn't really go through the motion, trying to sort of continue in that adrenaline thing. He tries to slow down. Rook g2. Bishop comes out to d5, attacking the rook. Goes back. Pushes forward. G4. Pawn takes. Now the bishop is controlling the queening square. So rook b8, g5 check. Comes back to g7. And Vincent comes back to stop the pawn from queening. Magnus knows that he is winning here, but first place e6. Not a great move. Rook d1, the best mistake. He takes bishop a2, bishop comes back, chops off the bishop, rook takes, king comes up to g6, and you can see that the g pawn is falling, and Vincent resigns. Magnus says that wasn't the most perfect game.